well. Monday was the final day for the winter event. I've seen the complaints, I've seen the bugs, and I've seen the usual across the forums in my comment section and in other people's videos. But honestly, I'm going to miss it. Not because it was a perfect event. Oh, no. Far from it. But because for a few weeks, Battlefield 6 actually felt like a sandbox again. It felt like the developers were willing to take a bit of a risk and force a lot of players to play a different game. Now, not everyone liked it, and a lot of players thought it was kind of meh. I liked it for what it was. It was kind of cool to me, no pun intended. I liked the mechanic. But the limited map support and the way challenges were designed kind of worked against the team play. And now the ice is starting to melt and we're staring down the barrel of Season 2 sometime in January. I wanted to talk about what actually happened here. Because if this event is the blueprint for how EA DICE handles season content in 2026, it looks like we might be in for a hell of a ride. Now, I had zero expectations walking into the Winter Offensive when it went live. If I'm being honest, that's how I usually walk into new things. It helps me manage my expectations. I knew on paper what the event was going to be about and the new freezing mechanic, but on paper and actually running it are two different things. So I just went with it. So let's talk about the mechanic itself for a quick moment. The ice lock mechanic was the centerpiece of this event. It was simply a temperature gauge. And it seemed to be one of the most polarizing things DICE has done since launch. Was it just a weather effect? It was a survival layer. If you stay in the cold too long, your health stops regenerating. Your screen frosts over, your soldier starts shivering, and your weapon handling turns into a shaky mess. To counter it, you had to find a heat source, like the green and white barrels on fire.
Fire! 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 Fire!
Spread across multiple locations on the map. Pretty simple. But as much as I enjoyed the atmosphere and thought the mechanic was kind of interesting, Lord in heaven, there were a lot of players lamenting it. A lot of them were annoyed at being forced to change up their tactics. Some of these opinions seemed grounded to me, such as, I'm just trying to survive normal mode, or I was just too distracted at first trying to figure out how to get warm. Other comments I saw were of the, this slows me down and I hate it vibe. Some lamented that because the mechanic limited your health regen, that it made for easier targets to be annihilated. I kind of took it as a challenge. Can I get the kill on half my health against someone not freezing? That's where I found the fun. So yeah, from a technical perspective, I kind of dug it. It added a warmth meta. In a standard match of Conquest on Empire State, everyone just zooms between the capture points and their kills. But with Ice Lock, those fire barrels became sub-objectives. You had to plan your route. You couldn't just sprint across the open plaza without knowing where the next thaw-out point was. However, this is where some players hit a wall. They wanted to sprint, slide, and jump constantly. The second the game says, hang on there, kiddo, slow your roll, some players were like, excuse me? What the hell did you just say to me? They called it tedious. I call it pacing. It forced some players to actually slow down and think about their positioning. For a few days, the game felt more like a tactical shooter and less like an arcade twitch fest. But, and this is the big but, the execution was a tad bit flawed. See, it had the added benefit of regenning your full health without needing a resupply bag, even if you took hits. Because DICE tied the health regeneration only to these heat sources, they accidentally broke the mechanic class for this mode. If you're a medic and your bag doesn't work because your teammate is shivering, that one utility drops you to near zero. It kind of hobbled the support role and made it feel less like a savior and more like a bystander. I mean, please continue dropping ammo, but I'm hanging next to this fire barrel already, so I don't need to be patched up, sir. This is the kind of systemic conflict that happens when you drop a survival mechanic into a class-based shooter without adjusting the gadgets. It's not really a complaint from my end, it was more of an observation. Then there's the Empire State problem. Look, I don't mind the map. It's a decent urban playground. But playing it on a 24/7 loop just to progress through the Winter Battle Pass? For me, that's where the chore feeling started to set in. We have 4 other maps in the current rotation that were begging for this treatment. Such as, just imagine Liberation Peak in a total whiteout blizzard. Imagine the Manhattan Bridge map where the vehicles actually acted as mobile heat sources, where huddling behind an idling tank was the only way to stay alive while pushing a point. Oof, maybe not. A bunch of boots on the ground, huddled and hugging around a tank, would so invite a well-placed C4, landmine, and RPG rocket combo to wipe out multiple squads. Okay, never mind. Forget I mentioned that. Stick with the green and white barrels. Anyway, by keeping it on Empire State, EA DICE effectively quarantined the event. It felt like a tech demo rather than a live service update. Perhaps that was intentional. Limiting it to just one map gave EA DICE a test bed for tighter numbers to look at and perhaps adjust accordingly later. However, it's the same issue I had with the California Resistance event. They built these mechanics, but seemed to be too afraid or too overly cautious to let them loose across the whole game. Maybe it's a concern for immediate and harsh pushback from the players who just want vanilla Battlefield 24/7. I don't know. Well, my message to the developers is this. If you're going to do an event, go all in. Make the whole world freeze. Force us to adapt across every biome. Less potential playlists that people will forget about in 2 weeks. And let's get this part out of the way. Challenges. I've been very vocal about PTFO. I'm not suggesting it's the only way to play the game. However, it is an over-focus of what the game is built upon. I don't have a problem in challenges per se. They've been in the franchise for a very long time now. But DICE makes it nearly impossible for the average player to do that when the challenges are as ridiculous as they were this past month. Please make a note. I said average player. You folks that think that the outside world has shitty graphics, this segment doesn't apply to you. I still say touch some grass every once in a while, but whatevs. Anywho, you had get 10 kills with a sidearm while freezing, revive 5 teammates while inside a heat zone, resupply 10 teammates in a heat zone. There was another 100 kills while the enemy was freezing, something like that. Come on, what do you think this does to the flow of a match? It turns your teammates into task chasers. Instead of pushing for Charlie or Bravo, you have 3 guys sitting around a burning barrel in the middle of nowhere, waiting for someone to get shot so they could get a freezing revive. It incentivized bad play. And I didn't get to finish all the challenges, and I'm okay with that. I did get my pickaxe. Because I'd rather lose out on a cosmetic skin than spend my limited gaming time griefing my own team just to check a box. We need to move away from the action-specific challenges and move towards outcome-specific ones. Give me points for minutes spent on a contested objective while freezing. I think that encourages the better behavior. The current system just encourages every man for himself instead of team play or overall gameplay. Now, I want to pull back the curtain a little further on this challenge system because it feels so fundamentally off to those for us who have grew up on Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4 era. If you're new to the franchise, you might think this is just basically how Battlefield works. You log in, you see a list of chores, you do them, and you get a little digital hat.
That's a very nice hat.
But for the veterans, this is kind of a 180 of the progression system that made this franchise the king of shooters. Think back to Battlefield 3 or Battlefield 4 assignments. Yeah, we had grinds. Nobody's saying we didn't. We had to get those headshots with the L96 or those Claymore kills. Those assignments were almost always weapon-specific or class-specific. If you wanted a new sniper rifle, you had to play like a sniper. If you wanted a better defib, you had to go play like a medic. The goal and the role were aligned. You were rewarded for mastering the tools of your trade. Compare that to what we just went through in the Winter Offensive. These Battle Pass style challenges aren't about mastery. They're about engagement metrics. When DICE tells you to get kills while freezing, the primary goal isn't player mastery. It's forcing interaction with a mechanic they already paid to build. Sounds to me more akin to, we spent money on this, now we want the players to use it. On one hand, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but on the other, it's a bit artificial. It's the difference between a chef teaching you how to use a knife and a corporate manager telling you that you have to use a specific spoon because they just bought 10,000 of them. It doesn't make the food better, it just justifies the expense. In the modern setting of any game, shooter or otherwise, I think the developers are terrified that if they don't give you a gold star every 15 minutes, you're going to get bored and go play another title. So they flood the screen with ribbons, medals, and daily challenges that pull your eyes away from the actual game. I've seen it 100 times this week. A squad mate is 10 feet away from a downed teammate. He's a medic. He has the paddles. But instead of reviving, he's staring at the burning barrel because he needs 3 more seconds of heat to tick off a challenge. He's literally letting the team lose so he can win a personal prize. In Battlefield 4, if you played like that, you were the outlier. You were the guy who didn't get invited back to the platoon. Now, in Battlefield 6, that guy seems to be the standard. The challenge structure unintentionally trains players to prioritize personal progress over squad success. It's training them to treat a 64-player tactical match like a solo RPG. Yeah, don't bother coming at me with, it's always been in Battlefield, bro. I've already had that discussion, and that bit about it's always been there is weak at best. And for the Battlefield dads, the guys who have 90 minutes of me time after the kids are in bed, this is the ultimate middle finger. The casual player doesn't have the time to game the system. They just want to play a round of Conquest where everyone is pulling their weight. But when the game itself is telling your squad to go chase ice picks instead of a flag, it turns the relaxation time into a chore. We're not too old for this game, as some of these kids like to claim. Nah, my dudes. It's just that we've played long enough to recognize when progression systems reward behavior that actively works against the match. We've seen the real squad-based progression systems and what they look like, and we know that this is a check-the-box seasonal crap is pale in comparison, and it is a pale imitation. I'll take the old Colonel 100 grind any day over this Winter Battle Pass. This is the bridge EA DICE needs to cross in 2026. They need to stop looking at the Activision playbook and start looking back at their own history. Give us back the role mastery. Give us back the assignments that actually required us to be good at our jobs. That's potentially a big risk now since Vince passed away, as he was the only one running defense between the devs and the CEOs. So, where does this leave us? The Winter Offensive mode was an 8 out of 10 for me. It had the atmosphere, it had the interesting mechanic, but it lacked a bit of scale in regards to maps and kind of overdid it with challenges. As we look towards January, when I get around the 5th, when I get back to my regular 3-day posting schedule, and then towards Season 2, I'm cautiously optimistic. We know the Little Bird is coming back. We know that MG5 is being added to the pool, and apparently the new environmental pressure in Season 2 revolves around a toxic gas mechanic. Oh Lord, I cannot wait to see the hate reactions to this as players try to manage a gas mask filter while trying to hold an objective or some over-the-top playthrough. Hopefully, though, the challenges will be a bit more balanced and a bit more Battlefield. All in all, though, I had lots of fun with the winter event as a game mode. I hope to see it return next winter with even more mechanics on top of the freezing one. I also hope to see it in more maps than just Empire State. EA DICE showed proof of concept, so who knows. What did you think of the freeze? Did you find the barrels tactical or just an annoyance? And did you actually have the time to finish those challenges, or are you in the same boat as me looking at the unfinished progress bar? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, everyone. And thanks for coming back after the holiday. Before you roll out, hang with me just a little longer, please. I'm a military vet. So I started doing support group spotlights since September, October. Most of my family are vets, so this is important to me, to us. And I want to share that. None of the spotlights even know I'm doing it, so it's not like it's a sponsor for me. And I feel it more important than clicks, likes, subs, or whatever. Remember, this is the last week I'm spotlighting DAV, the Disabled American Veterans. DAV's link can be found in the bottom of the video's description. See if it's something you're interested in supporting. Thanks. Until the next one, out.